my daughter covered white. And she was so thankful for the sea journey afterwards at washing off all the crap all over her. Right. So, okay then. So we'll be back as normal next week. Pete's going to do the talk. What else have I got to say? Don't forget the collection money, right? So Ruth, give your shekels to Kate, and Kathy, just give your money to Richard, and Richard will spend it on chips or something. Okay. Anyone want to ask me anything now before I go?
Yeah. It's back in the centre next week, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was all of November. It was going to
No?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, nobody wants to talk to me, Pete.
There you go.
Right, so, okay, I'm going to hand it over to Pete completely, right? So, and I will see you all next week, okay?
Right, so it's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Street.
Yep.
What's Richard talking about?
I said it's back to Cannon Street next week. So
No, we're gonna be online next week at 11:30.
Yeah.
When I say back to normal, I'm not doing this week on with you guys. Because Peter's doing this week with you guys.
It's never normal anyway.
I started on time again today. It's amazing.
Almost.
So
what are you doing working in North Wales?
what's that?
Are you forestrying in North Wales? What are you doing up there?
Well, no, I'm not. No, I'm in West Wales, North Wales, West Wales. It's all the same bloody difference.
You're right.
So it's a big secret. Shh. And you notice I haven't shaved this off yet, and there's a reason for it. Anyway, I'm gonna have to dash. So I'm gonna hand you over to Pete, and I look forward to seeing you all next week at 11:30. Okay?
Okay, love you.
Thank you, Kate and Kathy and Ruth and Richard and Pete. Over to Pete. I'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.
See you, lovely. Over to you, Pete. I'm going to give you full control of the Third Reich.
Oh, my, power.
Power.
Here than Deutschland, here than right. Bye.
Bye.
Tra.
Right. Hello. I don't know how many of you know much about Holm Island. It is a little island where you can mostly see in the Bristol Channel. If you go to Penarth's Esplanade, you just look out to sea, and there it is.
Yeah.
With a little lighthouse on the top. And it is a fascinating place. There has been so much history over the years. So we're going to start with a bit of screen share.
Was it joined at once to Barry?
Sorry?
Was it joined?
Yeah,
No, it's no, it was never joined to Barry.
No.
It was an outcrop of the Mendibills.
Right.
That's right. It sort of comes from the other side,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Stranger.
I'm trying to get.
used to sit
Here we go. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Can you see this?
Yeah.
A walk through time, an introduction to Holm Island in its Hackney, that's its Welsh name.
Does that mean
Presented by me, Peter Sampson, a Cornish exile. Has been here in Barry for over 60 years.
yeah, we do.
Arrived in Barry, August Bank Holiday Monday, 1957. When they said you're going to Barry for dry dock, we said, where the hell is Barry? But I've been here more or less ever since. Met a Barry girl.
Yeah, good for you.
And that's the island. As you see, not very big.
Lovely. I've never seen it from this
No, I
angle, though.
haven't.
It's lovely and green, isn't it?
It is. Well, it certainly is, yes. That's Holm Island. And then just a little bit farther across the channel, there is Steepholm.
Yeah.
A Steepholm, because of its steep sides, is much higher cliffs. But of course, that's in England, so we don't talk about that.
Oh,
Can you actually go on Steepholm?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, this is what is known as a wave-cut bed
Ah,
where the waves have shaped the silt in the Pangaean Lake over the years and turned the silt into this shape, which then became dried out and fossilized. It's what is known as a fossilized wave cut bed, one of the best examples in the world.
wow.
Geologists come from all over the world to look at this, take
Wow.
measurements of it to see how
Yeah.
much it's moved and where it's moved, etc., because that indicates movement of the Earth's surface.
Right.
And it is a very, very interesting place. This is out on Flatholm Island.
That's
And like I say, it's quite unique and it's quite famous through geologists throughout the world. A fossilized wave cut plate.
Yeah, you can see it. Wow.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? The fact
Yeah.
that was formed 600,000 years ago and was dried out and then baked and cooked into rock and is currently a rock, limestone rock. I
Yeah.
say the Flatholm is a part of the an outcrop of the Carboniferous limestone of the Mendip Hills, with the Mendip Hills, Greenhead, Steepholm, Flatholm, Sully Island, and Barry Island are all outcrops from the Mendip Hills.
Gosh.
Here we see footsteps. These are the footsteps of dinosaurs,
You're joking.
and you can see the 3 toes of the
Yeah.
dinosaur.
I did notice all that.
Wow.
And that's at the Bendricks. These can be seen now today if you wish to go there
I
yeah.
at
haven't.
low tide, of course. And they are the footsteps of dinosaurs.
Look at
Mm.
that.
And that's a dinosaur's footprint. See the 3 toe marks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think dinosaurs had car keys. That's just to give you an indication of the size of it. Not a very big one, not a big dinosaur like some of them we see in museums and things, but still a dinosaur.
Wow.
And I'd say these are over on the Bendricks, just across the water from Flatholm Island.
Amazing, isn't it?
And that, see that little dip there? That's
Yeah.
what is known as a tail scrape, where the tail of the dinosaur scraped a groove in the silt, and that was then again fossilized into rock.
Wow.
And there's my boots.
I hadn't thought of that, but of course, alligators and crocodiles make a funny
Yeah,
trail with
they
their
do,
tail,
don't
don't they?
They do. That's right. They do.
And dinosaurs had long tails, didn't
Well,
they?
of course, when I was a girl, they used to always draw the dinosaurs with their tails hanging
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Mm. Although they think they carried them up, but they must have dragged them
They
sometime.
must have dragged
Yeah,
them
you'd be
sometime.
tired, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And this is something which should never be there.
Okay.
This pink boulder there
Yeah.
should never be there.
Why?
That's it's not natural from the area. It's several tons in weight. It's quite rounded. It's quite an original, unique form of granite. And the only place where that granite forms naturally is Anglesey.
So how did it
So
get?
how did it get here?
Oh,
One of the ships
Glacier.
dropped it off.
glacier.
Glacial action, we believe. That is the only way it could have moved from Anglesey down to this area. That's what we believe.
We have got granite in this area though, haven't we?
It's quite pink and it's it stands out quite easily to see, and you can see the difference of it. Most of the rock around there is Carboniferous limestone, but this is granite, and in particular granite, particular pink granite,
Wow.
and it's, I'd say, unique to the area.
Peter? No, we can't hear.
Earliest known settlers on the island, we reckon between 900 and 700 BC. This is the only information we've got regarding people on the island. This bronze axe head was found on the island. This is
Wow.
now currently held in the Cardiff Story Museum, where the old library used to be.
Oh, right.
And it is, like I say, it is a bronze axe head.
I didn't know there was one there.
I didn't know there was a, no. I seen the library this morning.
And there it is. And that's the bronze axe head. Out on, we have a replica of it out on the island in the island museum. There we have a replica of this bronze axe head out there.
Right.
And so that was used by people up to 900 years BC. Now, St. Caddoc. St. Caddoc, he would spend many days on Plateau, meditating and writing, often joined by other bishops. They would go out there during the period of Lent, to be away from the madding crowd, to be in seclusion, to have time to meditate and write his books. Sometimes joined by other bishops, like I say, Barrack and Gwalchis sometimes joined him. On one such occasion, his book, the Enchiridion, got left behind. Barrack and Gwalchis were sent back to receive it.
Right.
To retrieve it, as I should say.
Yeah.
And having retrieved the book, on their way back to Barry, their boat capsized. Gwalch's body was washed up on Flatham Island and was buried there. Barrack's body was washed up on Barry Island and was buried there. And we believe the name of Barry and Barry Island came from the fact that St. Barrack was actually washed up and buried on Barry Island.
Yeah.
The ward of Barry Island, currently known as Barrack Ward.
Yeah.
After that, there is a chapel on Barry Island dedicated to St. Barrack.
Mm.
And it was believed that St. Caddoc, who was needed his book for a mass he was giving down in Langford, where he had a monastery, and he was due to give mass there, and he wanted his book. But having been back to Barry, he had little to eat out on the island, and so he was asking the local people, can they get him something to eat? And some fishermen went out into the Bristol Channel and came back with a large salmon. And when they opened the salmon, they found the book inside. But we're not sure whether that is actually accurate or not.
Probably were there.
Yeah, you could have then. Don't know. Because that's seawater and salmon don't go in seawater.
I think they do.
They do.
They spawn and then they.
Salmon do go in seawater.
Yeah.
They just come in. They come in fresh water to breed, to lay their eggs and breed. But they live in seawater.
We learned something today.
Yeah, we catch them when they're coming up the river to breed.
Yeah. Because I've seen them in the rivers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's where you'll see them. You won't see them in the sea.
No.
They're quite deep.
Yeah. No, but I've never heard of anyone catching a salmon.
The birds do in the rivers.
Well, they have. I mean, the Severn Estuary is just one big river, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got the Severn, the Wye, the Avon,
Yeah.
all coming into the same area. So the salmon, there would be several salmon coming in, down from the Taff as well.
Yeah.
Even not salmon in the Taff. But
Wow.
looking at these now, we're looking at the Viking ships.
I remember them.
You remember the Vikings, do you?
No, on books I used to read when I was little.
Ah, there you are.
No, I remember them in the books.
That's true. Yeah, so you would, yes.
And I've
And
got
that's the shape they would be, and that was what a Viking ship would look like.
and I've got the thing of it, you know that. Oh, I'll have to tell you again.
Now, over in Somerset, the Vikings have been over there pillaging, raping, stealing anything they could lay their hands on over in Somerset, but they were driven out of Somerset by the Saxons.
Right.
And the Saxons drove them out of Somerset, and they took to the sea, and some of them went to Flatham Island.
Right.
So in the year 918, Vikings led by Jarls, Ottier and Harold fled from Watchet after defeat by the Saxons and landed on Flatham. Lack of food on Flatham eventually forced them to leave. There was very little wildlife on Flatham or meat to eat, plenty of fish, and very little vegetation for them to eat. So the lack of food then forced them to leave, and they went to West Wales and off to Ireland. Some of them actually died of malnutrition, we believe.
Good gosh.
That's the Vikings over on Flatholm Island. And we know they were there because of the Saxon Chronicles.
Yeah.
Now, on the island, various gravestones like this have been found with no names attached. So there's no actual indication of who could possibly be. But various people have actually been buried out on Flatholm Island, some quite famous people.
Oh.
Well, Gwales and Berwick.
Sorry?
Was his name Gwales? St. Berwick's mate. He was
yeah.
over there, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was buried out on Flatholm Island, various other people. We
Wow.
believe that 2 of the knights that killed the Bishop Thomas of Becket are also buried on the island.
No way.
There 4 knights went into Canterbury Cathedral and killed Thomas of Becket.
Wow.
And had on the instructions of the monarchy at the time. And they were then ostracized, and they were sent off to the Crusades because of what they did. But on their return from the Crusades, they didn't want anyone to know who they were or what they'd done. And 2 of them went to live on Flatholm Island. They wanted to live in seclusion. They didn't want anyone to know who they were. When they were buried, they wanted no markings put on their graves.
My goodness.
Mm.
And so we believe it was Sir Reginald Fitznerse and Sir Hugh de Morville, with 2 of the knights that were actually involved with the killing of Thomas of Becket, and they're the ones that were buried out on Flatholm Island. They were so ashamed of their actions, they wanted no one to know who they were or where they were.
Yeah.
But when one of the graves on Flatholm were quite substantial graves, lined with rock, etc.
Oh,
And on one of them, the actual bones were in disarray, which means someone had realized who it was and took vengeance even on the dead bones.
Never.
Now, someone else that went out on Flatholm, Gwychil Thorkil's daughter, the mother of King Harold II.
oh no way.
Now, in those days, the lady didn't take the name of her husband. She kept her family name, so that she was Gwychil Thorkil's daughter, the daughter of Thorkil's. And because Harold was a Goodwinson. She was the mother of King Harold II, and she came with other wives of knights to mourn the loss of their loved ones, and they came to stay on Flatholm for some time. It is recorded in the Saxon Chronicles that they did so.
Yeah.
Almost like a pilgrimage.
But yes,
Good.
they wanted, but because they were so sorry and about the death of their children and their husbands, etc. They wanted to live in seclusion for a while, to mourn, and so they came to Flatholm Island to mourn the loss of their loved ones. They stayed there for some time and then went off to Saint Omer in France. So that is recorded in the Saxon Chronicles. So we know they did actually go there. Now, 12th century, rabbits were farmed on the island, brought to the island by warreners. That's where we get a rabbit warren from.
Right.
Rabbits were a delicacy for the Normans and farmed on many islands where the absence of predators made it economical. The warreners would go to the island, but they would build 2 parallel walls and fill between them with soft material. The rabbits would burrow in the soft material, have their young, and when the time was right, the warreners could come and dig them up and take them across and sell them to places like Cardiff Market.
Good God.
And they were a good source of food for the populace.
Yeah.
And I say, the Normans were very fond of rabbits, so they realized that it was a good source of food. And on the islands, because of the absence of foxes and weasels and things and other predators made it very economical to breed them out there. And so that was done on Flatham Island. Now on Flatham Island there are lots and lots of rabbits, mostly because they are being brought there, and the absence once again of predators makes them thrive, if you like.
Yeah.
And they are all over the island. We had to cull them a little while ago because when the council wanted to put some sheep out there, the rabbits were destroying all the pasture land.
Oh.
But I was chatting to one when I was over there some couple of years ago, and this one, he was chewing on a dandelion leaf, and he was looking at me just to say, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Hello, I'm Peter. My name is Peter too." And he didn't take a bit of notice. He just carried on eating his his dandelion leaf.
Oh.
And that's true. I did speak to a rabbit. May sound a little.
I talk to my dog all the time.
But it did. I did, and it cheered me up no end.
Yeah.
There they are.
Oh.
Sadly, occasionally we've got myxomatosis over there, and we've lost quite a few that way. But the rabbits are thriving over on Flatham still.
I bet they are.
Yeah.
How does myxomatosis arrive on an island?
No,
By a bird.
sorry.
Yeah, they fly over and they plop.
Oh, you think that's how it spreads?
Yeah.
On an island, you wouldn't know how myxomatosis would get over there, would you?
The
No.
rabbits were taken over there by the Warreners.
Oh no, I don't think you can hear. I don't think you can hear it.
Good earlier.
Myxomatosis, how did that get over there?
Well, that again by birds,
Plopping.
and something dropped from the birds.
Is that you? Or?
That's this phone. I have to excuse me with this phone.
Okay.
Oh, shut up. There we are. And to say birds carry all sorts of things over there. There's loads and loads of chicken bones and things over there on the island, brought there solely by the seagulls, by the birds. And that's how myxomatosis can get out to a place like Flatham Island.
Bird plop. Oh.
Now, in 1733, moving on through time, as we said, it is a walk through time, the merchantmen of Bristol lobbied for a warning light on Flatham. They were concerned of the amount of cargoes they were losing by ships floundering on the Wolf Rocks and on Flatham Island, and Steepholm Island, of course. But their request was denied. They said, no, we're not going to build no light on Flatham. It's too expensive. After how we're going to get materials out there to build a lighthouse. But then after a shipwreck, when 60 soldiers were drowned from it, they thought, well, it might have been a good idea. So in 1737, they were successful, and a tower was built on the island, and a coal-fired brazier was lit on the top. The merchantmen charged 3 a ton for shipping passing the light. So the 3 a ton of their cargo, they had to pay for ship passing the light. And so consequently, when they came into port, their cargo was assessed, and they were charged 3 a ton. So if you had their 200-ton ship passing the light, how much have they got to pay?
200 halfpennies.
200 halfpennies.
How much?
200 halfpennies. No. One
How
pound
many? Go on.
and 2D.
How many pennies in a pound?
100.
240.
No, not then.
240.
Was that you, Richard? 240?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's old money. That's old money.
Well, yes. But it was amateur into in school, wasn't it?
That's before
Pennies in the pound. 240 pennies to the pound. 12 pennies to the shilling.
pennies.
So a 200-ton ship would be 300 pennies, wouldn't it? At tuppence halfpenny, a penny halfpenny, 1.5. So there'd be 300 pennies, which would be £1 and 5 shillings.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, that's what the merchantmen were charged for passing the ship, the light.
Was that the dog coffee? Or was it cake?
Here's the lighthouse, how it progressed through time. In
Wow.
when it was first built, of course, there was the brazier on the top being lit by coal, and the man there keeping the brazier alight during the hours of darkness. The spiral staircase up the top, the coal had to be carried up almost a ton a night up to keep the brazier alight.
Forget it.
Well, it had to be done, and
Yeah.
it was done. And quite often it would be a family that would be the lighthouse keepers at the time. One such family was a Mr. and Mrs. Gilpin. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Gilpin, they worked hard, but they did like a few sherbets.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Gilpin, one day, he was off to Barry and visit various hostelries, and being rather inebriated on his way back, his boat capsized and he was drowned. That left Mrs. Gilpin on her Todd out on the island.
Doing the
But
coal.
she continued to carry the coal up to the brazier and keep it alight during the hours of darkness.
Oh my goodness.
She was a great.
25 tons of coal a month were delivered to the island, had to keep the brazier alight, and they would have to be unloaded. And when the lighterman, or the tug captain, brought his barge of coal to the island to be unloaded, if she didn't fancy unloading, she told him, no, take it back, and he'd have to take it back and he wouldn't get paid. And he wasn't very happy about that. When you've got a lady carrying nearly a ton of coal a night to the top of there, he's not going to argue with her, is he?
No. Sounds like Bruno.
In 1620, they decided this wasn't bright enough. I've just got a visitor, hang on.
Oh,
Now, this wasn't bright enough.
Sharon's been trying to catch her. Sharon just phoned to say that she's been phoning you,
Yeah, actually,
but she hasn't. She was
She
worried
phoned
about
earlier.
you.
okay.
Yes. Yeah, so you're fine, are you?
Yeah, fine, yeah. I'm
Yes,
just giving a
yes.
lecture on Plato.
Yeah. Because I'm going out for lunch.
Okay,
So,
all right, nice to see you for a
Yes.
change. I haven't
Yes.
seen much of you.
Yes. Yeah, I've been very busy. Yes.
Sorry about this.
Yes. So can you phone her to say that you're fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why.
Yeah. She said, I've been phoning him a couple of times and there's no answer. I said, he might be in the loo. And she said,
Oh, she didn't find the bloody landline, did she?
no, I think he might be in the mobile.
All right, okay. I'll give her a ring.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay, thanks, Cher.
All right,
Yes.
so I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah,
I'm going
okay.
out for lunch for the
Yeah.
breast care nurses.
Okay. Ta-ra.
Okay, all right.
Bye.
As long as you're all right.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that, but
We don't mind.
my youngest daughter has been trying to get hold of me and is worried in case I'm not okay. But there we are. What did I say? 1620. They decided that the brazier wasn't bright enough. And so they decided to put a petroleum lantern in there, a Tilly lamp. The older ones of you will remember Tilly lamps, a very bright paraffin lamp. And that would have been put into that glass cage. They built the glass cage on the top and put the lantern within it. And that coupled then with a rotating lens, which made the light to shine much farther in the distance, so it could be seen from much farther away.
Brilliant.
And then it wasn't until 1967 that it changed to electricity, and which it is electric now, of course, and then changed to an enormous 500-watt bulb initially, but now it doesn't need that. All it needs now is there's the lighthouse with the lighthouse keepers' cottages and all around it on the island. And
They live there, do they?
sorry,
They live there.
they lived there. Of course they did. They had to live there on the island. They quite lighthouse keepers. And like I said, that's where they lived. And nowadays, instead of that enormous bulb, we've got 3 little LEDs.
Yeah.
And that light can still be seen from Penarth and from many, many miles away. 3 little LEDs. And those 3 little LEDs there, no bigger than your little finger, no bigger than that.
Yeah.
And if they fail, then there's 3 more LEDs there which move up and would take over. The whole thing now is controlled from Harwich. There are no lighthouse keepers living on the island anymore. There is a warden, but no lighthouse keepers are required to live on Flatholm Island.
Just the magnification is
Yeah.
is by the surroundings then.
Now, also on Flatholm Island, there was the foghorn. And there you will see, there you can see 3 lighthouse keepers standing by the foghorn station. I lived in Pontypridd Street in Barry for a long time, and then on foggy nights we could hear the foghorn when it was sounding from Flatholm Island. The fact that there's 3 lighthouse keepers there now, because of a problem on West Wales, on the I'm trying to remember the name of the lighthouse, but the lighthouse there was 2 lighthouse keepers, and one of them died, and they had to wait 3 months for to be relieved.
Oh my goodness, how awful.
And then the one died, and that left one on his own.
Good
And he
God.
didn't know what to do with the body. He thought if he threw the body into the sea, he would be accused of murder because they didn't get on anyway.
Oh dear.
And so he took it to the top of the lighthouse and put it up on the rail around the top of the lighthouse and laid it up there out in the, because it started to smell within the lighthouse itself. So he put it up there. So
Outside.
when the breeze blew, his hand would wave after rigor mortis had passed and become flaccid, then his hand would be waving in the breeze, and that drove the single lighthouse man actually insane. When they came to relieve him, his hair had turned white, and he was completely gaga at that time. So they said from that time on, we need to have 3. So if one dies, there are still 2 people there to look after it. This is the foghorn keeper's cottage next to the foghorn station.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is a lovely, and the council are trying to set it out for self-catering accommodation.
Oh, nice.
There are 2 double bedrooms in there. There's kitchen facilities, bathroom facilities, and all the facilities you need to stay for a few weeks or a week. But remember, you need to bring all your food with you. There's no Tesco's out there. So you need to bring everything you need. You have to carry with you at the time.
Yeah.
And it would be a really nice place to stay. I've stayed out there for weekends, not in there, but in the farmhouse on weekends when we've had working weekends out on the island.
Yeah. So
And it is quite a nice little cottage to stop in.
windy out there.
Sorry?
Is it windier out there? Is the wind out there?
Well, there's bound to be a wind, yeah, it's out in the middle of the channel.
That's what I mean. It's a lot windier.
Well, it depends. The wind blows. The wind blows a gale sometimes, and sometimes it's very still. But
Better.
yes,
Wouldn't
the wind does blow. Yes.
it? Yeah.
There was like Trinity.
If you're worried about the wind blowing, then you certainly wouldn't go out there.
There.
Well, the wind won't hurt you.
I know it won't. I just wondered. With it out in the, and there's no
Yeah, must be.
There's nothing to shelter.
nothing to shelter you.
There's nothing on that
Right.
old picture.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
hasn't got a conical roof. No, it's got a flat roof.
No.
Hmm.
Very cute.
It is, isn't it? I'd love to go and see it
Look
for
at
real.
Now, 1840, there was Queen Victoria was most concerned about all the new ships that the French were building. Oh, let me see. 1 minute. I must call my daughter. Other daughter, where are you? Come on, come on.
Oh. No, I'm won't be late.
Yeah.
You'll sleep.
Did you have it already, or did Carl send you it?
Yeah.
No, it's already, because I've been
Right, sorry about that.
Oh, I see.
But she was most concerned about the French attacking Britain, so she instructed Lord Palmerston to build defences all around the coast of Britain in case of attack from the French. But of course they never did attack us. On Flatholm Island, we placed 9 7-inch rifled muzzle-loading cannon, and this is one such. You can just about make out the rifling, the 3 grooves of rifling within the barrel, and that went spirally up the barrel, so that when the cannon fired, it fired a shell which would be spinning and give it greater penetrating power and greater damage on arrival.
Right.
They were put in pits on Flatholm Island, and the pits are still out there on the island. They are 10 foot deep, 18 inches in 18 feet in diameter, and the holding down bolts of the guns are still there, and the gun will be within the pit, low down into the safe and firing position. And should the enemy be noted in the channel, then the cannon will be released to become above the parapet, fire at the ship, but the recoil from the firing of the ship brought it immediately back to the loading position.
Oh.
So it could never be seen by the enemy, and this was a military secret at the time.
Wow.
And they were quite amazing. And there were 64 of these disappearing cannon placed around the country.
So we can't see it.
Only the ones on Flatholm were true to the Moncrief disappearing system.
Wow.
And there's Moncrief looking at one of his designs of the disappearing cannon, where the cannon was there. The firing of the cannon would bring it back down to the loading position. That's Moncrief there with his top hat on, admiring his design. So the fire would be standing up there, fire the cannon, and then they'd be brought down back immediately down to the loading position.
Wow.
That's how one would have looked like out on Flatholm Island.
Cool.
No, the cannon fired, not a cannonball, because when Queen Victoria saw them building their ships, they were building ironclad warships, and the iron cladding was a proof against cannonballs. Cannonballs couldn't penetrate the iron cladding, so he needed something more definite to actually pierce the iron cladding. So they produced the Palliser shell. This is the Palliser shell which will be fired from these cannon, and these studs here would actually connect with the rifling within the rifled cannon barrel, and that would cause it to spin on as it was fired and give it greater penetrating power. Within it, there'd be about 1.5 pounds of gunpowder as well, which would explode on impact.
Right.
And consequently, that would do greater damage to the people on board the ship, obviously.
I think the spin makes it
Drill, wouldn't it?
easier, makes it more accurate to fire as well, I think.
The rifling and the spinning made it greater accuracy, yes, and greater penetrating power.
Fiendish, these people who design these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I say, it would
Oh, would it?
create great damage. I couldn't find any, but here's one that I found. This is at Chapel Bay Fort down in West Wales, and this is a 10-inch one, and you can see
Yeah.
the studs there, which would connect with a 10-inch rifle cannon, again to do have the spinning effect. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, another visitor. Sorry.
Hey,
Is it Cheryl?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been ringing him, Sean been ringing him.
Well, I don't know what the boy hadn't answered at all.
She's on the house phone as well.
Oh, the answer. Oh, I didn't never answer that. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Ta-da. Tell her all's okay.
Okay.
Ah, right. There we go. They're so concerned about me. They couldn't hear me on the because I wasn't answering my telephone.
Because they can't find you, that's why.
you'll never be able to hide.
They were really worried about me. There we are. But it's nice to know that they're thinking about me.
It is.
And this is one of the pits on Platham Island. 9 of these pits on Platham Island. And there you can just about make out the holding down bolts of the
Oh.
cannon that was within these pits. Like I
Amazing.
said, it's 10 foot deep, 18 feet in diameter.
Wow.
Mm.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, I say 9 of these on Platham Island.
Wow. Love
The
to go.
nearest we got to one which has been replicated is in Crown Fort in Plymouth.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, this fired.
Weirdo, they're controlling your computer.
The shell store and the cartridge store was all underground, and we have the shell store and the cartridge store underground, and it is visible, for you to go underground into these stores on Platham Island and see.
Oh,
And that says above the door, shell store for the 7-inch gun, and that would have stored those Palliser shells for the 7-inch gun. And next to it, you'd have the cartridge store. Now, this is as it stands on Platham Island at the moment, you can still read above the door where it says cartridge store for 7-inch gun. That is still visible. It was painted there in Victorian times. And this is the underground storage area for the cartridges for that 7-inch gun.
Wow.
And there's the gun showing just above the lip of the pit.
cool, isn't it?
Good
Good idea.
invention.
Photographer was out on the island. This was about 1890, and cameras were very few and far between in those days. And this photographer was out on the island, and he asked the soldier, he said, "Raise the gun up so we can see it. I can take a photograph of it."
Because we stood on
Well,
the.
this was actually recognized as a military secret. We didn't want anybody to know about these cannons.
You're 3 people
And-
there.
Yeah, there's
4.
3. 1, 2, 3, I can see.
And so
Yeah, 2, yeah,
the
4.
cannon was showed above the he took his photograph.
On the
And
ground.
because cameras were in their infancy, and there were very few cameras about, the lady wives of the lighthouse keepers, they came out in their best dress to get there on the photo as well.
You got into just getting the photo, I suppose.
But the men didn't want to be left out, so they got up on the roof and they got in on the photograph as
That's what I was looking at.
well.
I recently saw a photograph of an old Bury police station, and the policemen were out front having their photograph taken, but it looked like their sons and grandsons as well in their
Yeah.
little sailor suits.
Oh,
Cute.
But like I say, he was prohibited from showing this, from publishing this photograph, because it was regarded as a military secret. So we have that photograph now, but at that time it was prohibited from being published in any way because that was a military secret.
Yeah.
Now, to house the soldiers that were looking after these cannon on the island, they built the barracks. This is the barracks which exists out on Flatham Island now, and built in 1897. And it would have contained at the time, it was built to contain 150 soldiers. It only ever contained about 50 soldiers because the guns were never ever used in anger anyway, because the French didn't attack us at all. But this is the barracks out on the island. And contained within the barracks, there is the welcome room. You would go in, you move through the welcome room into the museum, from the museum into the bar, the local bar, and to the shop, all contained within the barracks on Flatham Island. And there in front, you see the Welsh leek. Here, these are the wild Welsh leek, quite a unique plant. And that is the original Welsh emblem of the
Wow.
wild Welsh leeks, a very rare plant.
Yeah.
Some seen on Steepham and of course on Flatham.
Hmm.
Now, on Flatham, the water supply, the only water supply was rainwater. And so they built a rainwater catchment area, one of few in the world. There are about 3 in the world as far as I know. One's in Gibraltar and one is over in Buenos Aires, we believe. And this was the one on Flatham Island. And there the water would collect on the platform, run down into the corner, into the drain, which would then go into the tank, the 6-meter deep tanks that would hold all the water from the winter rain to be used by the people on the island throughout the rest of the year.
Blimey.
As you can see, it's covered in weeds there. Now, we as a society would go over there, and once the summer had passed, we would clean it all and leave it looking like that.
Oh,
That's how it would be after we'd finished with it.
Yeah.
And there you can see where all the rain would run down into that corner, from that corner into the tank. Currently, we don't use water from the rainwater catchment area now. We simply use it from the roofs of the buildings.
That's enough. That's enough for
Mhm.
people. Knocking your pillows about. It's okay.
Now, Kohler Hospital. 1840 in Cardiff, 400 people died of cholera.
Cholera.
And so they decided, they got ships coming from all over the world, coming from what could possibly be contaminated areas. So they could possibly bring infectious diseases back to the ports of Cardiff, Newport, Bristol, etc. So it was decided that we need some means of isolating these people. So they decided to stop all shipping in the Barry Roads. The local health authority would go aboard, examine the crew and any passengers. And if they thought anyone was infected in any way, they would take them off and put them on Flatham Island. Initially, in a tented compound looked after by the resident farmer. Now, the resident farmer previously been taking his produce to Cardiff Market to sell it. But once this was established, people wouldn't buy his material because it came from a place where they had infectious people. So he lost his livelihood. So they paid him then to look after the tented compound and then to look after the hospital. In 1896, a hospital was built with 2 6-bed wards as an isolation hospital to house any sick people from ships coming into the area. In 1935, the hospital was decommissioned because there were lots of isolation hospitals on the mainland. So it wasn't really necessary. That's the plan of the island before it was built. I was out on the island with a group of people. I was showing them around, and showed him the what was left of the isolation hospital. I showed this picture, and he said, "Oh, my grandfather drew that because he was the
Cool.
he was the draftsman in charge at the time, and he drew the plan of the Kohler Hospital before it was built."
How fun.
Wow. How amazing is that?
Yeah. I say quite often things like that happen with people coming
Yeah.
on the island when we were taking groups of people around the island. This is the Kohler Hospital as it stands, as it stood, I should say.
Yeah.
And during the Second World War, the soldiers used it as a concert hall and a nappy. And that's how it was used during the Second World War. And that's a beautiful building. But sadly, because the farmhouse building required repairs, they took some of the slates from the Kohler Hospital to repair the roof of the farmhouse, and consequently it deteriorated quite rapidly from there on. Sadly, that's how it now looks.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
It is a real shame. It certainly is. And sadly, it's gone too far to be restored, but we're hoping to stabilize what is left so that it doesn't deteriorate any further.
Yeah. It's a shame.
That's the laundry which was attached to it, where all the hospital bedding, etc., would be towels and bedding would be laundered and boiled to remove any contamination from the infectious people.
Mm.
Now, if you look inside, look at this beautiful tiled floor of the
Wow.
laundry. And if you
Lovely.
look there, there's the boiler, which would be in that corner with a fire below it to boil up all the washing in that boiler. We have one of those in the house where I was a young boy, and we use that, and we use the water in it to bath in as well. We had a tin bath, and we heat the water up in there. But it was lovely being in the wash house with the fire going in the boiler, and in your tin bath, putting some hot water in there and getting in it.
I
We'd
used
have
to,
a bath at least once a month, whether we needed it or not. When you think of that today, we think, oh gosh.
Lovely. Lovely.
when it was a hot day.
Swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing for Flatholm Island, 1887, the first ever radio message over water by Carl-james Marconi was sent from Flatholm Island to Lavenock Point. First ever radio message over water. Now, Marconi, he went to the Italian government and said what he could do, and they said if they didn't want to know him, they wouldn't support him in any way. So he came to the UK. He came to the UK and he met George Kemp and William Priest, the Postmaster General. They said this might well work, and so they helped to support him. First of all, they tried to send a message across Salisbury Plain, but people said, you could have had a wire hidden in the ground, and so we're not sure whether it's true or not. So he said, if I send it across water, you have to believe me. So he came to Flatholm Island, and they sent the first message from Flatholm Island to Lavenock Point.
Kind of.
And that was successful. The first successfully received message was, "Are you ready?" And of course, that was replied to then.
From what I understand, they didn't even know if it would work over water. This was even to see if it would work. They didn't know.
Well, it was the first ever. It'd never been done before.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Never been done before.
And look what we do now.
Yeah.
And
People,
there's Marconi himself, quite a good-looking fella.
and people
And
usually
then
they went as fast as 30 miles an hour, something might happen to them. They might explode or something.
Marconi, he sent that message from Flatholm. Then he sent one from Lavenock Point to Breen Head, right across the Bristol Channel.
Well done.
Then he went down to to the Isle of Wight and sent a message to a ship 17 miles out at sea.
Wow.
That was successful.
Wow.
So then he went down to Cornwall to Poldu Cove, where he met my grandfather.
Never.
Yep. And they sent a message then across to Newfoundland and
Well-
to Nova Scotia
Isn't
in
it?
Canada. The first transatlantic radio message ever sent.
Of
And
course,
that was sent from Poldu Cove in Cornwall.
and then was it Crippen? Who was it?
Crippen was the one that killed people, isn't he?
Yeah, who was it?
Oh, there was Crippen was on the ship,
that
and
was the first time it was used for crime.
yeah.
Fantastic.
And now my grandfather brought back from the Marconi radio station 4 glass knitting needles for Granny to knit with.
Wow.
And they were in the drawer in Cliff Cottage ever since. And even when I was a boy, they were there, and we still got them. But
Never.
no one knew why would Marconi want glass knitting needles to send radio message, until I went to Flatholm Island and saw this picture.
Yeah.
And on this picture, you see he's using a rod to depress the key because of the very high voltages he's using. And the glass knitting needles being a true
Yeah.
resistance to electricity could be used. And
Wow.
so we brought those knitting needles back home. And there they are. We've only got 3 of them left. One of them got broken, sadly. And these are the 3 knitting needles, about 1 foot long, about 1/2 inch in thickness. But this one has got scratches on the point. So we believe that Granny did actually knit with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So
lovely.
then, from them we know what they were used for. And my nephew, he's built a lovely hardwood case for them with a glass top, and they're now within the case, and they'll be kept ad infinitum. Now, I visited Poldu Cove, and I mentioned the glass knitting needles, and they said, "Oh, we've got Marconi artifacts, have we?" I said, "No, you haven't. We have, and we're keeping them."
Good one.
Now, this is the actual monument out on Flatholm Island towards Marconi, and the fact that the first ever radio message was sent from water over there. It's not a terribly good example, I don't think, but the seagulls like it. They paint it white during the summer. Apparently, there was a competition over on the Channel Isles for a monument indicating the removal of the Germans after the Second World War. And this was one of the entrants for that. It didn't win that, so they decided, what are we going to do with it? They said, "Oh, we'll stick it on Flatholm and call it Marconi." Now, by Tesco's Extra at just outside of Cardiff, there you'll see the actual monument to Marconi. There you'll see the kite, which was used as the aerial. There's the 2 to 3 bells and the capacitor to build up the electrical current to send a message across
I've never seen that. Yeah.
Which Tesco is that? Is
That's
that
the big
Penarth?
one on by Uwick. You know
Oh,
where?
right. Yes, I know what you mean.
The Tesco's Extra by Kogan.
By Uwick in Kogan one, is it?
Kogan one, yes, that's Kogan one, yes.
The Kogan one
Yeah.
then.
Because that then leads out to the barrage, where you can actually see Flatholm from the barrage.
Yeah.
Now, the death ray. Harry Grindles Matthews, the inventor of the death ray, which could stop engines, explode gunpowder, and even kill a mouse remotely. The equipment was demonstrated on Flatholm Island that night in 1925.
Oh my God.
This was a chap down in West Wales, and there he invented all sorts of things. He invented the first remote-controlled boat. He invented the death ray, which he could stop a plane's engine, and he approached the government and said, "Look, I can stop a plane's engine with this by pointing this at it, and it will stop the engine." And this was 1925. And so he took the equipment out to Flatholm Island, and they demonstrated at night in 1925, and they stopped an engine. And like again, once again, I was explaining this to some of the people, and one lady turned around. She said, "Oh yeah, we lived down below them. We could see the light flashing in his in his room up on the hill above Swansea, and we always wondered what he was doing next." Harry Grindles Matthews, a famous Welsh inventor, who was never really given the recognition for what he invented. He invented the first telephone.
Yeah.
So you could actually receive speech by telephone. All these things he did, which were never really demonstrated to him. Here we move on to the Second World War now. And on Second World War, once again, we needed to protect the Channel ports, and so we needed anti-aircraft protection on the island, same as we needed on Steepholm, Breen Head, and Cardiff itself, of course, and Lavenok Point, to shoot down any enemy aircraft coming to bomb the Channel ports. And so this is a 4.5-inch anti-aircraft gun being towed up onto Flatholm Island.
Well, it's took a few of them, isn't it?
And there's Flatholm Island. Now, to move material around the island, they needed some more form of transport, because there was no roads as such on the island, paths, but no roads as such. So it was difficult moving equipment around. So they laid a railway, the railway from the landing stage, which was there, down to the barracks and the area there, down to the farmhouse, and to the various gun embankments where the gun emplacements were, the anti-aircraft gun emplacements. And the railway they used was the Wehrmacht railway. After the First World War, the Germans used a narrow gauge railway around their trenches and their front line. And after that war, we brought all that back to the UK with us, and we used it on places like Flatholm and Steepholm. And this is painting on the wall of one of the rooms of the anti-aircraft gun, the actual workroom. Their workroom. And this was painted as the 25th Coastal Artillery, and so they named it. This is ours. And the ones they're there at the bells. I'm losing my words now. And the ones at the lighthouse were the 146th Coastal Artillery.
Right.
Now there's another marking which is on one of the walls of the workshop of the anti-aircraft guns. And I often wondered what this was for. This is still there. It was painted on the wall. There obviously had to be a reason for it, because it's quite a good diagram. And I've asked various people as what could it be used for, and no one has actually come up with a real answer. Somebody said it was a lubrication checkpoint, and others have come up with different ideas for it, but no one has come up with a real reason for that diagram to be put on the wall of the workshop of the anti-aircraft.
Is that a kind of tally underneath it?
That could possibly be a tally underneath it, you're right. But why?
Who
Could it
knows?
be of the shots fired?
Change the oil. I
Does
don't
it
know.
go round?
It could be the shots fired. Who knows?
Mm,
Don't know.
interesting.
Now, on Flatholm Island, because of the dangers of incoming aircraft, they put a radar station on Flatholm Island. This is the platform for the radar station. For the radar station, we actually rolled up this slope up onto this platform to look for incoming enemy aircraft.
It's amazing, really, what's on there, isn't it? I didn't realise.
But yes, and this was the Mark II gun laying radar, which was established out there on that platform. But
Yeah.
to be accurate, it needed an absolutely level horizon around it. Because Flatholm Island was sloping quite badly, it would give an inaccurate reading of the distance and height, possibly, of incoming aircraft. So they made a false horizon of chicken wire. And this, you can just about make out the chicken wire there, which is used to make this false horizon. And they were concerned that we weren't making chicken wire during the war because we're using all the metal for the war effort. And so apparently they were told, well, go to the farms around Cardiff, take all the chicken wire you want and make your false horizon, which they did. So consequently, all the local foxes had a heyday because they get it all the chickens. And this once again is the island, and that's the radar station, and that hexagonal thing there was the actual extent of that false horizon to watch out for incoming aircraft.
How far round is it?
About 560 yards.
Not very round then.
This is a painting by one of the soldiers during the Second World War of the two anti-aircraft guns were out there. The Nissenets are what they were. The soldiers actually lived in. There's a Nissenet there, another Nissenet over there. There's still some Nissenets existing around the place, but these were what were actually used for accommodation for the soldiers which stayed out there. And they say this is a painting by one of the soldiers of the actual
Look at the light.
anti-aircraft guns.
Look, it's like moonlight or something across the water. Isn't that cool?
It is, yeah.
Really nice.
Beautiful.
It
No,
looks like a selfie frame or something.
Yeah.
well,
Take a photo next to the doodah.
this was Captain David Belger. This is Belger's goalpost. Now, he's most concerned. He's got a young soldier come in. He's been trained up to operate this 4.5-inch anti-aircraft gun, and he's been told we've got enemy aircraft coming from the south. So he's got his gun up and he's shooting at the any incoming aircraft, and he comes across and he shoots the top of a lighthouse. So Captain David Belger didn't really want him to do that, so he built Belger's goalpost. So as the soldier came around to this area, he had to lift his gun up, so he couldn't possibly hit the lighthouse.
Oh, that's funny.
Captain David Belger. Now, he was quite a bright chap who found wherever there was a problem, he would find a solution.
Obviously.
Bringing all the supplies to the island would be a metal barge. Now, the metal barge would be laid aside the landing stage and left there by the tug, waiting for it to be unloaded by the soldiers. On this occasion, a storm blew up, and the captain of the tug decided, well, I'm not staying out here in this, I'm going back to Barry. So he went back to Barry, leaving the barge alongside the landing stage. Now, once it was unloaded, it was quite light and bashing against the landing stage, which meant he could damage the landing stage. We can always get another barge, but we can't get another landing stage. So Captain David Belger decided he'd have to do something about it. So he got a soldier to shoot holes in the bottom of the barge and sink it. And of course, once it sank, it was no longer a danger.
Jolly good.
And then when 2 days later, when the storm abated and the tide went out, he sent a welder in to weld patches over the bullet holes and floated it back up again. That was Captain David Belger. He became headmaster of a school in Penarth. Must have been a very good school because it was approved. And there's a drawing of a soldier where he's drawn the gun with Belger's goalpost, and there you can see the beam of a searchlight looking out to sea. Another drawing of the actual wartime defences of Flatham Island. And then, of course, we move on to the lighthouse, to the livestock and the gulls out on Flatham Island. Now, there are a lot of gulls out there. As Carl was saying right at the very beginning, when he was out there and I took him around on the guided tour, and the gulls tended to give his daughter some shampoo.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Gold shampoo.
oh,
But the lesser blackback gulls have got the yellow legs.
all
Yeah.
right.
And they nest on the ground on Flatham, and there's been as many as 5,000 pairs actually nesting out on Flatham Island. Something
Wow.
like 5% of the total group on the UK nest
My
out
good.
on Flatham Island. They arrive there in about the second week in March, build their nests, have their young, and by the second week in August, they've gone. And they go across to Spain and Portugal and to sunnier climes.
All right.
Yeah. So they don't stay. But it's the local gulls, like the herring gulls, the common gulls, they stay around the cliffs of the island. And there's the greater blackback gull, because he's a nasty piece of work. He'll eat anything. And he's been known to kill young rabbits and things, and to feed his young. And there he's got his nest. And there we see two of our pretty birds, our oyster catchers.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
that's our pretty birds that we get out there. We don't get the puffins they get in West Wales, but we get pretty birds like that.
They're beautiful.
And there's a nest, typical lesser blackback nest, with an egg which is just hatched, and there's a chick just poking its nose out.
Tiny.
And there's some chicks. Now, years ago, the fishermen would land on the island during this time, and they would get the chicks and take all the fluff off the chicks, and that would be taken ashore for quilting. It
Yeah.
would be used in quilts.
Oh my goodness.
Come from.
I was out there. There was a young girl in a group that I was taking around the island, and the young girl said, "Oh, could I have one?" I said, "Yeah, you can have one if you like." I said, "You have to feed it." "Oh, yes, I'll feed it," she said. I said, "Well, you get raw fish and put it in your mouth and chew it up and let it take it out your mouth." And she said, "Oh, no, I don't think I want to do that." So she didn't. I turned her right off.
Moms don't even want to really do that.
No.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Follow me.
So there's our oyster catchers, our pretty birds.
Sweet.
About a dozen pairs of those we find out on the island.
Lovely.
Pretty, isn't they?
And there's our other pretty birds, the shell ducks. The shell ducks, they come out on the island. Sadly, they will have about 6 or 8 ducklings, but only about 2 will actually survive. The rest will have been taken by the gulls to feed their young.
Oh.
And there's all the butterflies on the island.
Lovely.
Fantastic array of butterflies. A lot of them will overwinter down in those underground ammo shelves, ammo stores, being that birds frost free. And there's these. They're not snakes. No, this is a slow worm,
Yeah.
a legless lizard. It's not a snake.
No.
And if you got one in your garden, look after it. It's a gardener's friend. This is a gardener's friend. He will to chomp up all the nasty bugs that you don't want in your garden.
Yeah, loads of-
And look after him, because he, like I say, he's the gardener's friend. And they are protected out on the island because of this blue colouring, which makes them a bit unique out there. I've had them in my garden, and I do look after them, I must admit. And then we had some sheep out there. These are Sowie sheep. They brought from an island in Scotland. There's only a couple left now. I think they may all be gone now. But these were all females. And the council decided they wanted some lambs on the island. So they brought some black sheep. And they brought up a ram to go with the black sheep. The black ram saw all these Sowies, looked at them. They're all females. And he thought it was Christmas. So we had Sowie lamb as well. And there's a Sowie sheep with horns and a shaggy coat.
Yeah.
And these were the black sheep the council brought over, hoping to make some money from.
Mm. Oh.
These are the flowers of the wild peony out on the island. Another very rare plant. It's not
Wow.
like the domesticated peony you'll see in your garden.
Mhm.
This is more like a dog rose.
Lovely.
Beautiful.
Lovely plant, yes. But once again, very rare, very rare. And there's the oh, I forgot my names again.
Me neither. There are loads of yellow daisy-like flowers as well.
Oh yes, yeah,
Hundreds of them.
yeah.
Pretty.
And that's Rose of Sharon, isn't it?
There's the wild Welsh sheep again. Wild Welsh beak. A beautiful plant in itself.
Yeah.
So when they said to take a leek and put it in your hat, that's probably what they meant.
That's probably what they meant. Yes,
Yeah, not a
Yeah.
great big shot.
No.
not the one that Max Boyce takes on the shed on
No.
the stage with him.
He's got some.
And there's the blackberries out at Tom's field on Plateau. I was out there one summer and that was completely blue. You couldn't see any green at all. And 200 yards away from the farmhouse, you could smell the perfume of the bluebells. Fantastic it was. And there's the thrift on around the cliff edge. And there's planting. Now, most of the plants on Plateau would have been taken there by monks during the in the very early days for medicinal or culinary use.
Oh, right, of course.
Now this plantain, the leaves, when boiled, made a serum which would be very good for eye problems like styes in the eyes and eye infections, and the eyes can be bathed with liquids from these. And once again, it was a medicinal use. The wild peony, the root from the wild peony, when roasted, was very good for circulating problems like hemorrhoids and varicose veins. And so a lot of the plants out there on the island were there for medicinal use. And this is the power supply on the island. Sadly, that the turbines no longer work, and we rely on solar power out on the island. And there's a waste of electricity, isn't it?
Oh, look at that.
But it is.
That's Cardiff from the island.
That's beautiful.
But there we are. That's Penarth Headland there.
Yeah.
And here's us in the kitchen of the farmhouse after a hard day's work, sitting around having a cup of tea. And there's me sat underneath the blackboard.
Super.
Oh, yeah.
These are all friends of mine
Yeah.
Lovely.
working out on the island.
Oh.
So that's the end of the slideshow. So thank you all for listening. Any questions?
No, thank you very much.
They do they tours over to that island, do they?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
You have to let me know, Pete.
Well, mostly during the summer.
Yeah.
They'll probably start again in March.
Yeah.
And that'll be Bay Island voyages. So the boats that take you out to the island.
Yeah.
The commercial boats that take you out.
All right. Oh, mine going over.
Well, it's like I said, it's an amazing place. It's a fascinating place. And you'll get a guided tour of the island as well.
I can tell them now.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't mind staying out there for a long weekend.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of interesting
Yeah,
places there.
that was very good.
Like
You
I said, there we are.
You at Pete's house, Kath?
Sorry?
I'm at Richard's house.
Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's out of sight. There he is. There he is.
No, I am.
He's been hiding.
Richard.
Yeah, he's still there.
Uh,
These are what are known as the Cumbrian swimmers. There's Jerry,
You.
John, and Des. They built a bridge out on the island. They quite often go out on the island and do jobs out there. They've been going out there for something like 30 years.
Wow.
I wouldn't mind doing that when I retire.
Oh.
If I got any energy left.
Like I say, are there any questions?
I think you've explained it quite nicely.
Let me just answer this one.
I've been out there a few times.
Yeah.
On trips and whatever.
Hello?
Yeah, it's nice to have someone. I think they probably were explaining it.
Oh.
But not as fully as that way.
They're on the island. Cool.
Looks like it's quite a bit on steep Holm as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realise there was much on there, you know, because it's so steep. the cliff.
There's so much history attached to that little bit of land.
It's
I think there's more history attached to that little bit of land than any similar bit of land in the UK, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, there is just all around here.
There's a
Amazing.
lot in that small
Yeah.
area,
Yeah.
historically speaking, as well as nature.
Well, it's been so important for the defence over the years. And like I said, the first ever radio message and things like that from the island.
Yeah.
And the cholera hospital where people were placed on the island to recover after they were thought to be infected and things like that, you know.
It's amazing.
Yep.
I never knew there was so much on it.
Well, there you are.
I'm going to go there.
Good. Yeah, do that.
Go over there.
Fancy going, Kate? Or have you
I
been?
would, no, I haven't been. I'd like to go sometime.
Should we go together? All
Let's
three of
go.
us.
Let's go
When in the summer it
in the
goes.
summer.
Yeah.
Towards the
yeah.
end of summer, maybe I can get some wild peony seeds.
You and
That's
Kath.
some what?
Would you like it? Probably not.
Not really, not really, is it?
What did she say she wanted? What do you want, Kate?
I said, I'm not sure I want to get on a boat. Oh, I'd like, seeds from the wild peony would be a bit good.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you have to be there during the seed time in September.
Lovely.
Mm.
Thank you, Pete. That was really interesting.
Okay, good.
Really?
Yeah, really interesting, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Yep.
Yeah, makes a change from Carl.
Tell him.
We do it slightly differently, me and Carl, I must admit.
Yeah. I understood all that though. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? I didn't realise there was so much there. So many interesting bits, you know. I mean,
I like the Palace of Disappearing Gun. I like.
yeah,
that's very
I
cool.
think that is amazing. I think that is amazing. Whoever thought that up.
As you can see, it's not that big.
No.
There's Castle Rock in the landing stage. There's the lighthouse over there. The Foghorn Keeper's Cottage and Foghorn are there. And that's the farmhouse there. When we go over, we tend to stay in the farmhouse. There's a problem over there at the moment with power for people living in the farmhouse. There is accommodation over there in what is known as Driftwood. But there's very little accommodation over there.
Yeah. Nice to see you, my love.
But there you are.
Cool. Thanks so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you so much.
Good. Glad everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, well, it's really good.
Oh, there we all are.
Hello. Oh. We got you.
Back to normal.
Terrible slur, isn't it?
Mm.
What are we doing? Oh, God. 1 o'clock.
Oh, Shackles time.
Yeah, Shekels. And I'm sorry, I didn't forget about
Oh, just
raffle.
Ian.
Of course, Carl
See him anyway.
do the
There's
raffle
no point giving it to me.
next
I'll
week.
see him the same time as you do.
Oh, there we are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same time next week for Carl.
Yay.
I'll give you my Shackles and then we'll Shackles out.
Yeah.
I've got 2 other talks that I do. I've
Yeah.
been done
What?
for, one is on Milford Haven and the defences of Milford Haven,
Oh, yeah.
and one is on Palmerston Forts.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Palmerston's Follies, yeah.
Oh.
oh, those both sound really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, got a pound. Not after all being bits. I thought a pound 50, 60, no, 70, 90.
Better go.
Your counting skills are fabulous,
I'm-
darling.
I'm crap with money. I get confused, but I have to count it twice and 3 times.
You weren't very good on the pound, shillings and pence, though.
No,
No,
time.
I wasn't alive then.
Oh, 1971 that was, wasn't it?
Mm,
I was only born in 67. I wouldn't have known.
Oh, dear.
I was in America and I remember it being in the news, but I wouldn't have a clue.
You were living there.
It didn't
then.
make any sense not decimalized, did it?
I
Although
can
people
remember-
managed for a very long
I
time
can
that way,
remember
didn't
it
they?
Well, of course it made sense.
Yeah. If
It was all dozens.
you're right, dozens.
Mm.
Hmm.
12 pence to the shilling,
Mm.
20 shillings to the pound.
So, oh, in 12, was there?
All straightforward.
Yeah,
40. Yes, isn't it?
still going inches and feet.
Shillings in a pound, isn't it?
Can't go the other way.
Ah, that's right. 21 McKinney.
Oh,
Now I'm used to what a centimeter is. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's yeah.
yeah, we use centimetres in the last of school of me.
Well, chaps,
Okay.
happy trails.
Yeah, bye everybody. See you all next week.
Well,
You all.
Bye.
See you next week, darlings.
Bye.